ultraviolet rays and the X-rays would have entered, and life would not be sustainable on the face of the earth. It is due to this atmospheric layer, the sky, which gives sustenance to life. Quran says in Surah Anbiya, chapter number 21, verse number 32, that it is He who has created the sky as a protected ceiling, as a protected canopy. Quran says that the sky, the atmosphere, is a protected ceiling, which science has discovered recently. 50 years back, 100 years back. Quran mentioned this 400 years ago. I would like to ask you that how many states of matter are there? How many states of matter are there? We learned in school. How many states of matter are there? How many? 3. Solid, liquid, gas, correct? Right or wrong? How many states of matter are there? Many people are saying 3. I can hear one voice saying 4. When I was in school, I had learned there are 3 states of matter: solid, liquid, and gas. And the scientists, they said that the space outside the organized astronomical systems, they are vacuum. But recently, there's a few decades earlier, scientists have discovered that there are bridges of matter outside the organized astronomical systems, which they call as plasma. This science today says is the 4th state of matter. Quran mentions in Surah Furqan, chapter number 25, verse number 59, it is He who has created the heavens and the earth and has created even things in between them. So the Quran says there is not only vacuum between the heavens and the earth, there is something in between, which today science calls it as the 4th state of matter, that is plasma. What science has discovered a few decades earlier, Quran mentions 1400 years ago. Who could have mentioned this in the Quran? The same message about the 4th state of matter is also mentioned in Surah Luqman, chapter 31, verse number 29. In Surah Zumur, chapter number 39, verse number 5. There's a famous scientist by the name of Edwin Hubble, and he said, and he discovered, which was one of the greatest discovery of the last century, he said that our universe is expanding, it is receding. Quran mentions in Surah Dariyat, chapter 51, verse 47, it is He who has created the vastness of space, the expanding universe. The Arabic word is mu'siyuna. So the Quran says that the universe is expanding, which the scientists have discovered recently. Who could have mentioned this in the Quran 14 years ago? And the atheists would be silent. There may be certain skeptics who will say, it is nothing great that the Quran speaks about astronomy because the Arabs were advanced in the field of astronomy. I do agree with these skeptics that the Arabs were advanced in the field of astronomy. But it was after the Quran was revealed that the Arabs became advanced in the field of astronomy and not the vice versa. That's the reason it is from the Quran that the Arabs learned about astronomy and not the vice versa. After the Quran was revealed, when the Arabs read the Quran, they got advanced in the field of astronomy. Let's discuss physics. There's a very famous theory known as atomism, which was first propounded 23 centuries ago by the Greeks, known as Democrats. And they believed that the smallest part of matter is the atom, which cannot be divided. And this was even known to the Arabs. And in Arabic, the atom was called as zarra, a theory of atomism. But today, and the Quran also speaks about zarra, Quran also says it's the smallest part. But today, after science has advanced, we have come to know that though atom is the smallest part of matter, having the characteristics of the element, it too can be divided. So people will think, now the Quran is outdated. The Quran speaks about zarra, but if you read in context, the Quran says in two places, in Surah Sabah, chapter 34, verse number 3, as well as in Surah Yunus, chapter number 10, verse number 61, that when the unbelievers say that the hour, the day of judgment will not come, tell them, it will surely come with the permission of thy Lord, in whose record is clear the minutest detail of an atom, and in whose record is propitious things smaller and greater than the atom. So the Quran says that it is mentioned in detail, the smallest detail of atom in the record, and even things the smaller and greater than the atom is in the record mentioned clear. So the Quran is not outdated, it is up to date. The Quran says that in the record is mentioned things the smaller and greater than the atom. Imagine this was mentioned in the Quran 1400 years ago. In the field of hydrology, the water cycle that we learn in school. We learn in school that the water evaporates from the ocean, it moves upwards, forms into clouds, moves into the interior, it falls down that rain, and the water cycle is completed. It was first discovered by Sir Bernard Palissy in the year 1580. Sir Bernard Palissy was the first person who described the present water cycle which we learn in school. Previously, in 7th century BC, Thales of Miletus, he said, it was the spray of the ocean which was picked up by the winds which fell into the ocean as rain. Previously, people did not know from where did the underground water come. They thought it was the pressure of the winds on the ocean which pushed the water into the interiors. And then it came back into the ocean by secret passage, which at the time of Plato was known as Tartarus. People believed in this theory, including Descartes in 16th century. In 17th century, he believed it. And scientists like Aristotle, even in 19th century, believed that the underground water was spread by condensation of water in mountain caverns. And these condensation gave rise to springs. Today, after science advance, we have come to know that the underground water is due to the seepage of rainwater in the cracks in the ground. Quran mentions 14 years ago. In Surah Zumar, chapter number 39, verse number 21. Seest thou not? It is He who sends down water from the sky and leads it in cracks in the ground and causes sown field of varying colors to grow. Quran says in Surah Rum, chapter number 30, verse number 24, it is He who sends down water from the sky and gives life to the earth after it is dead. Quran says in Surah Mu'minun, chapter number 23, verse number 18, it is we who send down water from the sky, and we are able to soak it, store it, and we are even able to drain it. Quran says in Surah Hijr, chapter 15, verse 22, it is He who sends fecundating winds. The Arabic word used here is lawaki, coming from the word lakaha, from lucky, which means to fecundate, which means to impregnate. And today science tells us that the clouds, they're impregnated by the pollens which are blown by the wind. And the second reason for rain to fall down is when the clouds join together. There's lightning and the water emerges. The Quran uses the word impregnate to fecundate.